you might guess that if this is the situation personally, that if we just have eyes to see, this is going to metastasize. Now I'm using medical terms here because you know what it means to have a cancer metastasize. It has taken our loved ones. It multiplies, it spreads its venom, it spreads its tentacles in the body, and the whole body gets sick. Have you watched the news lately? We are not well. And I'm talking about the United States. I'm also talking about the world. We are not well. Every stop is being pulled out to bring us to our knees, to self-destruct, to destroy each other. You know how I just have to watch the news? Watch the news with an eye of faith. Watch the news because there's purification going on. God does it like the delicate surgeon. You've got to go in there with the tiniest instruments. But this thing has to go. This tumor has to go. This healing has to begin. And sometimes He will put some very bitter medicine in that wound to kill off fungus, to kill off God knows what bacteria. If you use the medical terminology and just simply switch it to the spiritual, it becomes a sacrament, becomes a sacramental. That through the lens of the news at night, you can watch the activity of God. And hopefully you are a wise enough person to choose a news source that's telling you as much of the whole truth as possible, not a slanted, partisan view. You should be wiser than that. So, what does it look like when we talk about social sin? Social sin is a new kid on the block. In the Catholic Church, we have talked very much about personal sin. It has been the objective for our sacrament of confession, our penance. Were you trained in school to examine yourself on social sin? Were you? Oh, I wasn't. We didn't even know it existed. Social sin is metastasized personal sin. It becomes systematized. It not only stays within the privacy of your life, but it moves into your business. It moves into your government. It moves into your school. It moves into your hospital. It moves into your organization. It moves in, you can name whatever. So watch. Watch. The first step is you've got to notice how something is strangling you. And you're going to spawn that. The spores of that are going into your family, going to go into your relations, going into your business, going into your church, your parish. Nothing is exempt, folks. Nothing is what you say off target or out of bounds. Not for the one who is the unquarantined. The one who has every vice you can wish for just for the asking. Nothing is out of bounds, except when you come across the blood. When you come across the name, he goes nowhere near the name, nor the blood. The blood to the evil one is acid. Burn. I had a friend one time who was a Mennonite woman, and her friend had moved into a house, and she said, there's something in this place. Scares the living daylights out of me. Something went on in this house. I feel there's satanic presence in this house. I said, Ilsa, I'm going to tell you a Catholic thing. You can do it or not. Go to a Catholic church, go to the holy water fountain, take your nice jar, and dip your jar into the holy water fountain and take it home. Take it to your friend and tell her to get a nice crystal bowl out, put it in the middle of her dining room table, and pour the water into the crystal bowl. That's all. It's not magic. That water is a blood substitute. We can't keep blood in the holy water fountain. So we put water there. But make no mistake, when you sign yourself, you are signing yourself with the blood. And that makes you out of bounds. And then you put that cross on yourself. You can't stand that tree. That tree is the counter tree. He used a tree to deceive. This one has used a tree to heal. It's the new rainbow up in the sky that connects heaven and earth, that tree, that cross. When you use that cross on yourself, there's like a shield. I know whose you are. You're already possessed, and not by me. Those are very simple things, and they are not magic. They are faith things. The sign. Whether it's this, so that these parts of you are cleared to hear the word, or this, to remember your baptism and whose you are. So, as we move, we're going to be talking about the abuse of the body politic. And the body politic is our social life. So let's look. Let's look here, and we're going to be looking at the 10. Now, the Canadians have 10. A lot of people in the U.S. list 7. I'm going to give you all 10. I've had some Canadian influence, okay? And so I'm going to give you the 10, what we call areas of social life that we need to become aware of because they can get infected. And we might be partly responsible for infecting them. First of all, the first 5. The Catholic social justice principles states right off the bat that the person is without, there is no exception for how you treat an unborn person or a born person or an elderly person or a Down syndrome person or a person who is autistic or a person of what color in the garden. God likes ice cream flavors. He likes licorice, he likes chocolate, he likes vanilla, he likes strawberry, and he likes vanilla. Now, which flavor are you? And so the dignity of the human person has been violated left, right, and center in this nation because we have a slavery heritage. And we are working mightily to overcome it. I visited my niece during July, during the COVID break, and I was blown away. I'm an avid listener of the news. And for me, it's PBS. I don't go anywhere else. Plus the Christian Science Monitor, believe it or not. That's my magazine of choice. Yes, I'm Catholic, but I go to the Christian Science Monitor because the journalism is objective. The news, when I watched it, and the commercials and the programs, because at my niece's house the TV's on all the time. I couldn't believe it. The diversification was something that wouldn't have been possible 5 years ago. The diversity of races shown in the commercials, the diversity of people in the programs, it was marvelous. This quickly, we have healed that by media. Let's give ourselves at least one pat on the back. It's marvelous. And it ain't, we're not putting the toothpaste back in the tube because it's not politically correct. And that's how virtue has to come. It's coming in like a Trojan horse. It's not coming in on the balloon that is the religion. It's coming in through the fact that you're just out of it. And you're embarrassed because you have an all-white staff. Well, then be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed. If you want your business to be representative of the population. So this is happening. So respect for the person. The common good is another biggie. And boy, are we caught in that. What will help everybody? Well, there are those who are saying, well, that's the vaccine question. What will help everybody? I don't approve of vaccines. I may be in alternative medicine, or I have read doctors who are saying that in the end, that spike protein is going to cause trouble. Fine. I know that too. I read those doctors too. I'm in alternative medicine. But right now, today, in the state of Missouri, what can we do to help each other? That's the common good question. And all the while, I've got my convictions. This is the area. This is not pie in the sky. This is where we live, folks. Third, solidarity. Solidarity is the opposite of isolation. My house, my block, my neighborhood, my state, my business, my nation. The rest can go shoot snipes. Solidarity is our family, our block, our neighborhood, our state, our city, our nation, our world. Solidarity is a sense of we, not me. How is that being offended by decisions that are being made in schools? Well, we're not going to talk about the racial question. Oh, yes, we are. Because it's a part of the truth. Oh, yes, we are going to talk about Indian lands and how they were stolen. Because it's part of the truth. And you never have reconciliation until you have facts and truth. Don't kid yourself. Denial is error. Denial is security. Denial is fear. You can hear all the little private personal sins operating there like red lights. Preferential option for the poor. That means nothing, no policy, no educational, no real estate, no national Medicare stuff, no anything, nothing passes legal standards that does not see the poor, those who cannot provide, instead of just seeing the upper crust and how we will line their pockets. This principle means that you have to be sure everyone is at the table. No one is left out. And you have to ask, what is it going to do to them if this law is enacted? Now, as controversial as it is, this is where the Democrats and Biden is with the abortion question. This is a very sensitive topic. If you go to principle number 1, You've got to totally protect the unborn. What are you going to do with the poor? That question hasn't even been asked in Roe versus Wade. That's why it's so tenuous in Mississippi. Because they're beginning to realize this was not a thorough legal discussion. What's going to happen when it is a thorough legal discussion? Maybe we ought to take care of the poor, and maybe the problem won't need to be used. Maybe this method won't be. What about these women who don't want a pregnancy and it's forced upon them? What about these poor who can't afford a child? If this is a principle, it's got to be enacted. It can't be selective. It has to be part of a Catholic mindset. That's why I think Biden looks like such a rogue. You're caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. So are the Democrats. And that doesn't stop you filling out those survey forms that come to your house saying, you know, what are you with this? What are you with the racial question? What are you? To tell them that you totally respect life from the beginning. We have got to walk a tightrope, which is a both-and tightrope. And Catholics need to learn to do that. It's not compromise. It's balance to keep everybody in the picture until we get to a decent solution. And it doesn't mean knee-jerk laws that seem to fix everything and fix nothing, because law does not change the heart. So this is very sensitive stuff, folks. Steward of creation, Laudato Si. And that the fact that the Catholic community across the world is now being called by Francis for a 7-year program to lead the world in care for the earth. It's as if the church has stood up and started to roar like a lion, instead of being just nice little, you know, the doggy chained to the doghouse. You pat it when you go by and say, don't bark. That's how the church has been in this country. From the beginning, we couldn't get jobs. Jews, blacks, and Catholics need not apply. And the Irish, by the way, because they were Catholics. So we have, you know, we're in the hot spot with our social justice principles. And we Catholics had better wake up and smell the roses, because we've got to get in there and we've got to state principle. Not just say, well, I vote for any candidate who is pro-life. Yeah, once the baby is born, God help them. And Steward of Creation is going to be Laudato Si in a 7-year program. We're in a 40-day period right now from the 4th of October till the 14th of November. This is 40 days of prayer and fasting. And on the 14th of November, we enter the 7-year period of ecological justice throughout the world in every Catholic community. If you think the synodal thing is big, put that together with Laudato Si. And then if you think you're in the Diocese of St. Louis in a strategic plan to reorganize the whole diocese, you've got a 3-layer cake, folks. We can't afford to be ignorant and unaware, because this is about our life. And it's our being salt, leaven, and light in a Protestant community. We do not go sit next to the doghouse with our tail between our legs and make nice doggy. Number 6, subsidiarity of authority means you do not go to your boss when you should talk with your supervisor. You do not go and talk to a third party when you have a gripe with another person. That's gospel. Go and talk to them first and say, you know, when you do this, I really get upset. No, you'll go to a third person and you'll talk behind their back. No, this principle says, no. Subsidiarity is you go where the matter rests. You don't go talk to the superior and say blah, blah, blah with that supervisor and blah, blah, blah with that supervisor. Oh, no. You go to the supervisor. That's subsidiarity. If the supervisor won't hear you and they tell you, get out of my office, then you go and you take another person and you go talk to the supervisor. You know the routine. Read the gospel. Okay? So that's subsidiarity. It is very practical. It hits the ground running. Participation in community, it means that as a Catholic or as a Christian, you are a communal person. You are a we person. You don't just say, what is this for me? You say, what do the others need from me? What kind of presence have I committed myself to? If I belong to this, how am I going to belong to it? And how am I going to be present there? At least sometimes to show that I'm standing with those people. If it's a union, if it's a club, if it's an organization, how am I going to give evidence that I'm standing with those people? If I say I'm a part of, how am I a part of? Rights and responsibilities means everybody. Not just me because I'm white. What are the rights of my Latino friends? What are the rights of my black friends? What are the rights of my indigenous friends? It's everybody. And with rights, and that's the big problem here. We're free, aren't we? We're a free nation. Woe be to us when we begin to interpret freedom as license. Woe be to us. Then anything goes, and I want to do what I want to do, and you better make a law to let me do it. That's freedom. Oh, is it? Freedom always implies responsibility for the common good. And if it doesn't, it's anarchy. It's license masquerading as freedom. It is free choice run amok. Whether it's, I want to run all over your newly planted front lawn because I want a shortcut to my garage. And I will get arrested for abuse of property because we have a law about that. Why? Because that's against the common good. For you to go walking over a freshly planted lawn because you want a shortcut. Well, when that starts to enact, you can watch what's happening in the news. I got to have the freedom to, oh really? You should talk to the news. I mean, people shouldn't be with me when I watch the news, you know, because, oh really? Well, what about all your neighbors? What about all those people you work with? This is not pie in the sky. This is hitting the ground. This is the rubber hitting the road. This is where we live, folks. It's all around us. And last, and going on further, economic justice. Oh, dear God. Now the opioids are paying it big. Why? Because they wanted to make a profit. And millions of people died of overdose. And we think it's awful. Well, where's the economic justice in that? Yes, you have a right to make a living, and you have a right to make a profit in your business. But who is suffering? Because your salary as a CEO is 3 times that of your workers. What economic justice is that? So you want another bonus? And last of all, peace. Now, peace is not pie in the sky. Peace is really chapter 7 of Fratelli Tutti. Fratelli Tutti is Francis's document that follows Laudato Si. The two are partners. If you haven't read both, please put it on your bucket list. Read both Laudato Si, and especially ecological spirituality, and then Fratelli Tutti, which is about who is your real neighbor. Who's your real neighbor? And what follows from that? Chapter 7 is totally on peace. It's called Arranging a New Encounter. And the bottom lines for peace are very simple. Absolute nonviolence. Any form of psychological, physical, or spiritual violence is against peace. Second, war is an obscenity. It is the epitome of violence and the destruction of every personal right. Look at Tigray. Look at what happened in Afghanistan. Look at the nuclear buildup. There is no just war. There will be extermination of humanity. That's not just. War is an obscenity, and Francis says as much. Finally, he says, among 2 very blatant things, he says, the death penalty is absolutely impossible. You cannot do it and observe the first social principle, respect of every person. And then he adds, a life sentence is a silent death penalty. Read it. A life sentence without parole is a silent death penalty, psychologically, for that person. Can we do better to our broken brothers and sisters who have done heinous things, like shooting 14 people in a school? And I'm sorry, I'm touching on all phases of the news, but you know where I've been. These are 10 principles. And so let's move to our second last frame here. I'm past time already. Personal sin, then, in its various forms, is never private. Now, it's very important to get those 2 words straight. Personal sin is never private. It may be to you, but it has ripple effects. The scandal of example, the significance of sacramental reconciliation is we have to go to the car wash. Often. You arrange, since it's, quite personal now. When have you been to the sacrament lately? And what do you do when you go there? Which means you have to deal with that pustule. You have to deal with how you have fallen victim to the vice of your own personal sin. And then you might start checking out how it has had repercussions in your business, family, or parish. There is a final slide, and we close here. William Blake, the British poet, takes us back to how we began this discussion. We're put on earth a little space that we may learn to bear the beams of love. Sin is non-love. And so we sit in the gaze and we let him beam love into us, which cauterizes, heals, soothes, and gives us joy. Blessings to you, and I close with just saying, I'm going to ask you to write this on your paper, and when you leave today, make it a point to go to compassionate, the word compassionate hyphen stl.org. Go there, look at the website, and click on Join Us. This is a complete city movement to make St. Louis a city of compassion to get over its racial background and its injustice. This is a group of over 200 people and organizations that want St. Louis to become a city of compassion. Please join us. Click on Join Us and just stand with us. We ask nothing else. Amen.